What's up guys, Dan here, and we're at the shop today. And the reason we're at the shop and not out in the woods is because today's project is something you're gonna be doing at home or at your shop or maybe in your garage. Probably not, maybe on your living room floor. I mean, so what we're going to be talking about today is axe care, specifically axe handles. We're going to talk about three ways that you can take care of your axe handles, things that I learned over the years, things you should be doing with your axe handles. So let's get started with it. All right, so number one when it comes to axe handles is the possibility you might need to prep them before you can do anything else to them. Now, all my axes, I have already done this if it was actually needed, and that is removing the lacquer from the axe handle. So I have this end of an axe handle. I don't even know where this thing came from, but it's gonna get the point across. This thing still has lacquer on it. Lacquer and axe handles equals super bad. What happens with the lacquered axe handle is that after prolonged use, you start to get hot spots on your hands. Those hot spots then turn into blisters, and then that means just you're not gonna wanna use your axe because your hands are gonna be absolutely trashed. So we wanna avoid that if possible. Now you might be thinking, why is there lacquer on axe handles anyway? So if you buy a very high quality axe or a custom made axe from an axe maker, most likely the handles do not have any lacquer on them. But if you buy an axe at a big box store, you're probably gonna find lacquer. The reason why is because these larger companies that make tons of axes and are sitting in hardware stores on shelves for a long amount of time, they're trying to just protect the handles. It's also gonna prolong the handle's life for just the common person. So we're bushcrafters, we love our axes, we're gonna actually take care of them, but Uncle Joe, who's just out in the backyard smashing stuff with the axe and throws it back in the shed, that lacquer is gonna be fine for him on his axe. So let me show you how to get rid of the lacquer quick and easy, and then we can get on to the other things we need to do. Okay, so with your lacquered axe handle, okay, you got a couple different options here. Number one, you can grab sandpaper. But that is a total nightmare, legit nightmare. So there's much better options. Number one, if you have a sharp spine on your knife, you know we use that out in the field for shaving branches, also making shavers with fat wood and stuff like that. So you can really easily take this and just scrape along the handle itself. What that's going to do is that's going to remove all that lacquer and get you down to bare wood. Now, if you don't want to sit and do that with your knife, you can go to a local woodworking shop or even probably just check online. They do sell something called a scraper. It's literally just a piece of metal that has 90-degree edge all the way around it. They make them square, they make them rectangle, they make them curved, and this will do a good job scraping off all that lacquer. Okay, so you just work around your axe this way, and you're really quickly going to start to see that lacquer disappear and the raw wood come through. So that's what you're looking for. Now it does get a little bit more difficult down around the bottom, and this is like what I say high risk area, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. You still want to try your best to try to get that off, see what direction the grain is running and what the best way is for you to do that. This might require a file or some sandpaper here, even though sandpaper is going to take a lot longer. It's just tough with these scrapers to actually get around all these curves without destroying this too much. So take your time with it, enjoy the process, and then move on to step 2. All right, so if you bought an axe without lacquer on the handle or you already went through that step, the next thing that you're going to want to do is treat the handle of the axe with something. Now the go-to thing to treat your axe handle with is this stuff, boiled linseed oil. I don't know who came up with that being the thing that you use on axe handles, but they were sort of right and sort of wrong. So the purpose of putting boiled linseed oil on your axe handle is it's gonna help preserve the handle. Think of treating the wood. So if you leave the wood raw, over time it can absorb water, absorb moisture, and that's a bad thing when it comes to wood. So think of adding this almost like putting deck sealant on your deck. You know, you're trying to preserve it longer. So This, of course, it works really, really well, okay? You put it on a rag or you put it on your hand and then you rub it into the axe handle itself. Make sure you get the grain side and the top near the eye. It's really gonna absorb a lot of that oil there. Let it sit for a while and then just wipe it off. Now, if you're like me and you got over anxious with this when you first start the whole bushcraft journey axe thing, you put on boiled linseed oil and you just let it sit there for a while. And then what you realize when you go back is your axe is super sticky. Not good. Then you're trying absolutely everything to clean up your axe. So I came up with a little bit better of a solution. Now, I don't know if I came up with this or not. I have heard this through the grapevine over the years, so I don't take all the credit. But if you take boiled linseed oil and you take turpentine and you mix the two, you end up with this like watery golden mixture, okay, that is absolutely wonderful for your axe handle. Now, what's so nice about this mixture, and I wasn't just pouring it on the floor, guys, but you can take your axe and you literally can just soak it in here. Now, of course, my axe handle's in there, but remember that eye is super important to get treated. So you can just let this soak in. You can coat your axe with it and then just set it somewhere outside or on a rack and let it drip dry. The turpentine will dry the oil out and not leave a sticky residue. So that's like a super pro tip for everybody there. So mix the two together, 1 part of boiled linseed oil, 1 part turpentine, so that means just a can of each, and then you have yourself a great concoction for coating your axe handles. Okay, so a couple things now, I wanted to touch base with axe handles and coating them. So again, I can't stress enough, get the end grain of each side, and then the handle itself, just make sure you cover that. You'll see it absorbs a little bit, but this is where it's gonna absorb a lot of this mixture. Now, having the school and having the property, we can leave tools out super long term in all weather conditions. What I can tell you from doing that is when an axe handle actually breaks and it rots, where that always happens all the time is where the axe handle goes into the head because you can't get enough of the boiled linseed oil or whatever you're using up inside. So it's really important that every so often, especially when you're done a trip in wet conditions, that you take your axe and you soak at least this plus the head in this concoction for a day, maybe even 2 days, and let all that oil get down inside there. That is really the point that becomes the weakest over time. The head breaks off and then you got to get that out. So although this is important, down inside the head is even more important. Tip number 3 is longer term axe storage. Super important for your handles. So you're going to get axe handles that have a lanyard hole, and you might be wondering, well, why do I even have that on there, right? Because very rarely you're going to put with a larger axe like this, you're going to use the lanyard itself, but they're there for an actual purpose. And then you're also going to have some axes or hatchets that just don't have anything, no hole, so we're going to talk about those too. Now, one way to really destroy an axe handle, and again, this is extended long-term type stuff, is leaning it up against the wall somewhere where there's actual pressure from the top here and the head is pressing. What that will do over time is that will warp your handle. Now, that can also happen if you keep it out in a shed, there's moisture in the wood, you have it laying there, you have other stuff laying against it, so that is an absolute no-no. What I say is axes that don't have the lanyard hole in them, you should always store them by just laying them flat somewhere. That is going to be one of the best things that you can do. Now, for the axes with a lanyard hole, okay, very easily you can hang them. I have, in this case, a pegboard, but you can just put a nail in somewhere and hang your axe. This is going to ensure that that handle stays nice and straight. So that's really what that hole is put there for. And then, of course, you can do the same thing with screws or nails for the axes that don't have any lanyard holes, and you can just hang them around like this. Of course, I would say probably keep a sheath on, but you get my point. All right, my friends, and there you go. There are 3 tips for taking care of your axe handle. Not only when you first buy it, but how to maintain it, and then also for that long-term storage. So I hope you utilize these. I learned the hard way with some of these things over the years, so that's why I wanted to share with you, so you can bypass all that and just get back to enjoying the outdoors. So thanks for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Also, click that notification bell so you get updated on all our videos. Check us out over at Coalcrackerbushcraft.com for all our merchandise and our classes. And until the next video, stay in the woods, stay in the shop, something. I'm so far from the camera, I gotta crawl across the workbench now without knocking everything.